to welcome everybody that's joining me in this channel. And it's a preppers channel. It's more like a podcast, stuff I talk about, stuff we'll talk about, and the whole prepper thing. And I want it to be something for like people that are barely starting to do some prepping, and also for people that have already started prepping, and like for like the badass already like hardcore preppers out there. A lot of this is going to have a lot of insight on stuff that you're normally not aware, or maybe stuff you might not think of or thought about. And I also want it to be funny. Sometimes, like, me and my sister are probably watching like a post-apocalyptic, or what's that dystopian, show or something, and we look at stuff and we're just like, what does that even that makes no sense, right? And a lot of times when we look at stuff, I'm like, yo, if I was in that world, I would die like in the first 30 days. Like, there's no doubt if anything happened like that, I'd probably be one of the first ones to go, with a lot of the stuff I already know. Um, so I want that to be something about this in this like channel. It's just like something we just talk about. And like I said, I want it to be funny. A lot of times when I look at, you know, some videos on YouTube and stuff like that, a lot of it is a lot of overwhelming. Yeah, there's a lot of aspect of like, hey, you're prepping, like this stuff you should think about, like stuff like that. But sometimes a lot of it I look at, like I said, it's overwhelming. Like, it's just kind of like, if somebody's new to prepping, you just want to like start getting at it, basics, and you know maybe I should look into this instead of like that. Sometimes a lot of the information out there is just so overwhelming, it just doesn't make sense. Like, a lot of it that I see is top 10 gadgets, or top 10 things you should have if you're prepping. And then they got like 50 videos of that. So it's kind of like, so what is it? Is it top 10 or top 500? Might as well do top 500. Hey, you have a truck and an SUV, and on both cars, you can basically attach like a trailer and like an RV or like a camper type of thing. Top 500 things you should have on those two vehicles. Like, I get it. Like, that is a little something that's more understandable if you're like doing some prepping. You gotta bug out. You gotta like, we gotta leave. We gotta go. Everything we need has to fit in these two vehicles, plus trailer and RV camper type thing. And of course, with that information, that's also a little overwhelming. You know, Even for myself, I'm like, damn, I have a truck, I have a tow package, I have all that stuff. I don't have a trailer. Does that mean I have to go get a trailer? No, that doesn't mean you have to go get a trailer, but you kind of understand what I'm grasping here. Like, sometimes it's easier to be like, hey, top 10 things you need, but then it's kind of like, what's the next top 10 things? Next top 10 things. Next top 10 things. Next thing you know, it's like, what is it? Top 1,000? So I get it. It could be overwhelming, like to that point where like it's top 10 things and it's easy, but it's not the top 10 things. But then sometimes also it's kind of like, should I store canned food? And then they have all this like obscure amount of information on like canned food, like expiration dates. Does this taste good? This probably tastes nasty. This is horrible. Don't buy this. There's just a lot of information, and it can be overwhelming. So, I kind of want this to be somewhere in the middle where it's like beginners, like grabbing the attention of beginners, where like let's ease into it. you know, and then also like for people that are prepping, be like, you know that might be something I missed out. You know, that's probably a good idea. I never thought about that stuff. Or, you know, for like the advanced preppers, be like, you know, he has a point. Or, you know, hey, that's pretty funny. I never thought about it like that. So I kind of want to lean on those mediums where like it's like that, but also like funny. Um, so let's get into it. Um, I'm gonna be known as Skeptical Prepper. Like that's gonna be my name. That's gonna be my channel. That's gonna be my group. It's gonna be called Skeptical Prepper, right? Because in reality, I don't consider myself a prepper, and by the means of like the advanced people, like people that are like hardcore crazy in a good way, where like if something happens and they stay put in wherever like property they designated for that to happen. And if they stay put and a lot of like scenarios and all this stuff may overpass them, it's like they can be there for like 10 years, right? And then for like the other group of people that I know and like my family members, friends, people that know me, for them, a lot of times I'm the prepper, right? I'm the one that got land. I'm the one that wants to do off grid. I'm the one that wants to homestead, grow my food, grow my own cattle, my own meat. You know, in those eyes, I'm the prepper. I'm the go-to guy that every time something happens, it's kind of like, hey, if anything happens, we're going to your house, right? And I'm like, no, what? Like, I'm the crazy prepper in my group, but the first thing they say is, we're going to your house, right? So it's like, am I crazy or am I not crazy? So in those aspects, I'm like, I don't consider myself a prepper because I'm way far off of actually being a prepper. But people consider me a prepper, and I understand of me being considered a prepper because I have more than others in this aspect of basically prepping. So, like I said, my channel is called Skeptical Prepper. My group Skeptical Prepper. You know, the whole thing is Skeptical Prepper because, you know, in reality, it's prepare, survive. But let's be honest, you'll probably die. You know, that's basically the phrase of Skeptical Prepper right there. You know, prepare, survive, but let's be honest, you'll probably die. And like I said, I joke about that a lot when it comes to like, especially like TV shows and like the whole dystopian post apocalyptic era, you know, TV brand is kind of like, yeah, if that happened, you know, like sometimes we judge it like, maybe in that show I would last 6 months. In that show, not even a day. You know, so it's kind of like, you know, everybody that's a prepper is preparing for something kind of like specific with a broad span of like, if anything of all these other things happen, it's kind of like, it falls in there. But like I said, you prepare to survive, but you really don't know how long you might last if anything actually happens. So that's why I kind of want to like take this whole funny aspect about it, but also be informational. Let's not get that out of the way. And you know, like let's get into it. It's January 2021. And yes, you know, we're gonna start off with 2020. We're not gonna skim it. We're not gonna be like, oh, you know, I've been prepping for a long time. I really haven't. I've always had that notion of like, hey, you know, to my parents, it's kind of like, hey, we should always have like 3 months worth of food in the pantry. You never know. And I'm not talking about one day to another, there's fucking zombies. And it's just like, yeah, we got 3 months worth of food. We're gonna duke it out. We're gonna make it. And a lot of it was more like, hey mom, hey dad, I looked at your pantry and you guys really don't have like 3 months worth of food. Like we should probably like start buying a little more. I know a lot of times it's hard on money and all this stuff, but like we should really like keep that where like it's always 3 months worth of food. And a lot of it has to do with employment. You know, a lot. It's kind of like when you're in construction. I've been in construction about 15, 12 to 15 years, on and off of construction, and this is all like my perspective. When I was in construction, I'm in construction right now, but like a lot of the times it's kind of like construction is like super high, right? We got jobs left and right, and we're like, yo, we can do this like 2 months from now. We could do this 3 months from now, like, and people are just like, oh yeah, that's fine. It's not a rush, but like I need it done. Like, all right, cool, cool, cool. Like it's just so much work in that field where it's just too much, and then all of a sudden, it's dead for a month. Not even a call about, hey, I need this done, or like nobody's looking for like certain types of work. Nothing. Sometimes even like 6 months, it's kind of like in 6 months I did 2 jobs like that. Like construction is so crazy, where it's kind of like you can make a shitload of money in a week, but you never know what's gonna happen in the next 2 months. So it's always like that aspect of like I grew up in like, hey, we have a job now, but tomorrow might be we don't have a job for a month, 2 months, 3 months. You know, that's why it's always like, hey, that aspect of like we should have food in our pantry for at least 3 months. You know, that's kind of like how I'm trying to get at. Where like I was never like hardcore prepper, and then 2020 happened, and I still don't consider myself like hardcore prepper even with 2020. But I've always had that mindset of like, hey, let's have a little extra stored away, and you know, and I have the computer here because I don't have notes, but I have like um, basically like bullets of kind of like what I want to talk about. So 2020, we'll just go off of 2020. In 2019, I got laid off. Right, I really got laid off, and off working in a warehouse. With like a hydroponic store and all this stuff. They just basically wanted to move elsewhere, and they got rid of a couple of people. And they really didn't need to get rid of anybody, but business is business. They got rid of a couple of people. I was one of them, and no joke, 3 months later, they wanted to hire me back, but at minimum wage. And I was like, nah, I'm good. Um, which is really fucked up because I was making like close to almost double minimum wage, and then I got laid off saying like, hey, we don't need a lot of people anymore. Like we're going in this direction. Like cool, and then it's just like, hey, we need people. Do you want to come work for us? You basically know the whole system of this business. Do you want to work for us? And like, yeah. What's the pay? Am I still gonna get like the same pay? No, we'll start you off at minimum wage. So I was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good where I'm at, which was nowhere. And I say nowhere because, like I said, construction is up and down all the time. So in 2019, I basically started working in construction again with my dad. And like I said, at that point, I got laid off. I started working with my dad. And my dad was like, hey, we're basically like redoing a house for this company that rents out for other people that live in other states. And so they're like, hey, I got this house. And I was like, cool, let's do it. Next month, hey, I got this house. Another week later, Hey, we got another house. We got another house. And that kind of went on for about, 6 months. I was just like in and out of a house that we were pretty much renovating to basically put back on the market for the person that was renting it out to basically get renters. And then construction like slowed down, and we were kind of like, we're getting by, we're getting by, we're getting by. And then it's just like from basically one day to another, it's kind of like, yeah, there's no more work. And luckily, that same company called me back and was like, hey, do you really want to work? We're basically losing someone, and you're basically like the best person we can think of that can do this. And I was like, well, what's the pay gonna be? Because last time was minimum wage. If it was gonna be the same thing, I'd rather not even work for it. You guys could basically get someone at minimum wage, train him, or basically just get me back at what I was at and continue where I left off. So I got back. At this time, I was getting paid more than when I left, and my basically my old manager was like, "It's like if you never missed a beat." That's the words that came out of his mouth. Is like it's like if he never missed a day, he never missed a beat. And so I'm back working. And then this is basically like basically January 2020, right? I'm there for about 3 days already. And then, I'm working, everything's good. Then, I'm not really like a big news guy, but I start looking at the news and I'm telling people like, hey, there's this like crazy virus going on in China and like, I don't know, it sounds kind of weird, maybe we should pay attention. A lot of people were like, nah, it's nothing, it's just a flu, whatever, I get it. And then Italy shut down. And I was like, hey guys, Italy shut down. Like, this shit's spreading. And we might, I don't know, we might probably like think about getting food, preparing for, I don't know, if Italy's closing and we get it, what if we close? Like, I don't get what that means. Like, we didn't even know what that even meant. So, next thing you know, it's kind of like, hey, COVID is technically like in the US, and that's when shit started going crazy. The whole like, me and my family were like, hey, we really need to go to the store because if they're saying, at that point, there was like so much shit saying like, we're gonna close down. It's gonna be 3 months before that we close down, and then this whole thing about like, hey, people that are in essential business are gonna have to stay open. That's basically just it, and everything else is gonna close down. That company was technically essential business because agricultural and all this stuff, and then it's kind of like people need a special paperwork to like drive around town because they're the only people that should be working with essential businesses, so they need that special paperwork. It's just a lot of information about something that's happening, and we were just like, we really don't know what's gonna happen. So me and my mom, I was like, Mom, we really need to get food because we really don't know what happened. A few months ago, construction went down, and my dad hasn't worked in like 2 months, from basically like December to January, like 2 months. My dad hasn't worked. We should really go to the store now and get like whatever we need, just in case. Like, what if in the end I'm no longer working because of this, and then my dad can't work because of this, and you're not working because of this. Like, what happens like if none of us is working because of this? We really need to get some food. So at that same moment of time span, the whole toilet paper happened, and it's just like, and then all the memes are like, oh, COVID is probably giving you like bowel movement problems, so you need all that toilet paper, or you're just so scared shitless that you're gonna be in the bathroom shitting yourself, so you need all that toilet paper. It's just a bunch of nonsense on toilet paper. But nonetheless, there was no fucking toilet paper. And so we're at the store, we're getting all this stuff, and the way we got toilet paper is because we knew somebody that worked at the store, and we're like, hey, how's the toilet paper? And she told us it's out in the first hour, like a full roll of pallets out in the first hour. So you know I'm like in a huge box store, and we were like, you work here, you think you could get us toilet paper? And she's like, yeah, I could definitely get you guys toilet paper. So we gave her some money, and the next day she was like, hey, I got you guys toilet paper. And same thing, like in the first hour, like pallets and pallets of toilet paper were gone. And technically for them that worked there, they were only able to get like one package of toilet paper a day. So even if like you think about like, oh, they probably like they're screwing everybody else over, like no, even if they wanted to, like if there's maybe 100 employees that work there and are able to get a package of toilet paper, that's one pallet. The one pallet doesn't go out in the shopping mall. This is all just me guessing. I really don't know how that worked out, but she was able to get toilet paper for us. So we got toilet paper, and me and my mom got like two full carts worth of like mad food, right? And a lot of it was like pasta, sauces, and at that point, a lot of it was going up. Limit one, limit two. Everything had a limit at that point. At that point in time. So, but we got our food right, and at that point, we're like, we're like 9 months past that whole point, and I still got some of that food here in my house. Pasta, sauces, some ramen, rice, not a lot of canned food, just, coffee, sugar. A lot of that I still have here in my house. So, and, in my perspective, that's pretty good. We took the action of like, hey, we need to get food because we really don't know what's going to happen. And we did, but now it's kind of like, I still got food here. And then my mom's kind of just been like eating away from her stock a little bit. So it all kind of worked out. That's pretty good. And then at that, pretty much around that same time, where like the whole, you basically need like a special permit, or they might close all these businesses down. There was a huge amount of layoffs, and a lot of it was also like hospitality layoffs. Hotel workers, people that do all this other certain type of work. There was all these like things of people just not working anymore, and I heard a lot of people quit their jobs and still got unemployment because they were like, hey, if they're not working and they're getting paid to be at home $800 a week, and I'm working my ass off 40 hours a week, and I'm only barely fucking making like $600. That makes no fucking sense. So I heard a lot of people quit their jobs and still got unemployment, right? In my case, we at that point we got like on the new management with this asshole. I really don't want to be like rude, but this guy was really an asshole, and that person made a lot of people quit. And I still think he works for the company, and the company still doesn't know like what's going on, why are people quitting, like, and it's just like, yo, that's the guy. Like, if you haven't noticed, that's the guy, and everybody told the people like that's the guy. So at that point in time, this guy wanted me, he wanted me to do things that were outside my work, realm. And I was like, yeah, you know what? This is really not going to work out because at this point, you're like exposing all of us to COVID. We don't have proper regulations. At that time, they had this whole thing where like only 10 people were allowed to a specific building. We had more than 10 people. and this person did not care. This person just didn't care. And so I was like, you know what? This is not gonna work out. Especially with like my dad, who if he gets COVID, I'm pretty sure he would die. My mom, if she got COVID, I'm pretty sure she would die. You know, a lot of people like in the older community is kind of like you're risking you're risking it. So I didn't want to risk it and also like do a lot of things I was supposed to do per my job and have nothing because there was going to be no benefits towards me doing technically his job and him getting paid 3 times as more as I did and me just staying at the same thing at the same amount of pay with doing his job. So anyways, everything was just like going crazy at that moment and I was just like, you know what? I'm out. I'm out. I left. And when I left, I applied for unemployment, which I had all like the right reasons to leave, but I was unaccepted for unemployment. So I never got unemployment. I did get a couple of things where like some things for my mortgage, um, just a couple of things. My car was like held back for about 2 months, but with all this like just COVID and all this fucking crazy shit going on, it's kind of that same perspective where like I'm out of a job again, right? And just applying everywhere, like construction, warehouse, all these places. Not one phone call, just emails saying like, yeah, we decided to look elsewhere, or you don't meet our qualifications, even though like I basically exceeded their qualifications. It was just kind of like, like who knows, maybe somebody that had like 3 times more of the qualifications that I did got the job I was applying for compared to me exceeding the qualifications that were required compared to someone like they got laid off, 20 years of experience. I have 5 years of experience, just weigh it out. They hired someone, you just never know how that works out. But in all that craziness going on, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm out of a job again. And good thing I basically bought a bunch of groceries that would last me months here at my house. And if I'm in my parents' house, like basically that's kind of how it worked out. And then yeah, we got a stimulus check, which it's not even like a month's worth of mortgage, and that's basically what they gave us. Um, and then 2020 had Black Lives Matter riots, which they weren't even riots. There was a couple of riots, and it's just like 2020 was one of those years that was just like crazed one day after another, and all we had was the internet, right? Like TikTok making memes, TikTok making people just talk madness of like, oh yeah, this and that, and then defund the police and all this stuff, Hey, they used the wrong terms. Andrew Schultz says that they used the wrong terms for that. I agree. I don't agree that police should not be basically like eliminated, but I do agree in the aspect of like, hey, you really need to like study the law and have proper training for this, because it's kind of like, really, you can't build, you can't remodel a fucking house without, you can under the table, everything, like nobody knows anything. If you're never gonna sell your house and you remodel, you never have to say anything. Most of the times, I recommend that because of all the paperwork and all the shit you gotta pay. You know, you gotta have a licensed contractor, blah 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 blah, all this crap. Um, but if you're gonna sell your house, you should definitely do it. But a lot of times it's kind of like you can't remodel your house unless you have someone that has actually studied the laws of construction, right? Which is you take a class of being a contractor. So, same thing, you know, the police, they should have an adequate amount of experience in law and all these other things that a lot of other certificates require to get that. And basically, I don't really want to dive into that whole thing. You know, it's not really like I'm not really too crazed because there's there's right and then there's left, and these people hold some good statements on what it should be, and I agree with some of them. And then the right also has the same thing where they got some good statements and a lot of good things I agree on, but also a lot of things I don't agree on. So I'm not gonna side with like, oh, it has to be like this, it has to be like this. No, because you know, there's a lot of good points on both sides. It's just people are colliding. And basically that's something else I want to get into. The election. Everybody's all crazy with the election. You know, like, fucking Trump, right? We got fucking, I don't even remember. Who do we have? We had Bernie Sanders, and we got Biden. And then it was kind of like, oh, this guy's too old. He wants to get rid of, you know, student loans. He's a fucking Russian or whatever the hell they were saying, fascist, you know. And then, oh, Biden's old. He can't even fucking pronounce his name. He can't even do a full sentence. All these this guy's on Twitter all the fucking time. It's just a bunch. You know, the election is just like, what the hell's going on? Like, we were all divided. We're like, everybody's like, oh, Trump, Trump, Trump. Those guys are fucking racist. Fuck them. Biden, Biden, Biden. He's a fucking pedophile. Fuck him. It was just like, it's just a lot. You know? And also, it's kind of like, I don't want to get into those politics, but it's kind of like, what did we really wage on that? You know, the separation of the people, right? And I do believe that in the prepper community, they kind of side with me where they're kind of like in the middle, where it's kind of like, yeah, the Republicans, they have some good points also, but also a lot of this shit's kind of weird. The Democrats have some good points, but also a lot of this shit's kind of weird, you know? So it's kind of like, I feel like the majority of preppers are kind of in the middle, where it's kind of like, yeah, I'm all for Republican because my gun rights. And it's kind of like, I'm all for Democrats because, hey, if I'm following all the laws, I think there should be some fucking, you know, Second Amendment thing going on where, yeah, there shouldn't be any school shootings. But it's kind of like also like, yeah, I'm all for Republicans because my Second Amendment rights, but also like, I don't want to register my shit because if shit hits the fan, I don't want nobody to know. And then it's kind of like, yeah, I'm all for Democrats where like the Second Amendment rights, where it's kind of like, yeah, we should regulate some shit. I get it, you know. Don't be fucking shooting up fucking schools, people be doing all this crazy shit. But legally, I bought this thing for my legal rifle, and now you're gonna take it away from me, and now I'm a criminal because legally you let me bought it, but now you're saying I can't have it. You know, it's all this crazy like separation of like this person's right, this person's wrong, this person's right, this person's wrong, and it's just like no, it shouldn't be like that. And I really do believe that a lot of the preppers are way in the middle where it comes to that. We're like politics. Like we're not really crazy into left side or right side or Republican or Democrat, but we do sit back and listen because that's what we have to do. You know, like that's what I do. I'm not really into the news crazy, but sometimes I do like, oh shit, this is going on. Oh, it's pretty fucking crazy. Like it's just like there's this whole thing about rights. There's gonna be a march going on, and I'm like, that's crazy. But no, I'm not gonna be part of it because I do believe what they're doing, but I'm not gonna be part of it because if something happens there, like I'm the prepper, right? Just listen, wait it out, do basically rationalize decisions. I'm not saying that a lot of people that go and do what they're doing is not unrational, but maybe to somebody's other perspective, it's unrational. So the whole separation thing is it's crazy. You know, 2020, the separation of 2020 was like crazy, right? And then the election happened, and then it was kind of like everybody was waiting up. Oh, come on, come on, come on. What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And then it happened, and it's kind of like people didn't let it go. And because people didn't let it go, people on the other side were kind of like, no, yeah, yeah. And so there's that conflict again where like, it's happening, it's separating. There's that separation, and it's just kind of like 2020 was nuts, man. And, you know, and then now recently it's kind of like that whole invasion on the Capitol where there's all these people saying, hey, if they were Native Americans, if they were black, you would have shot them on the spot. But because they were white, you didn't do anything. And it's kind of like, I don't think you should shoot anybody, right? People talking about there's going to be a civil war. There's going to be all this shit going on. Who are you going to be shooting? Your fucking neighbor? Like the audacity to be like, we're going to have a civil war. Dude, look at it. You could be a fucking Republican and your neighbor could be a Democrat. You both ain't going to be walking in the same line to attack another city thinking it's a civil war. That's not how it's going to work. Like, it's crazy how that thing happened where like, okay, they invaded the Capitol, they thought their rights were being infringed, they did all the steps, but there was no like actual police action at that time. And trust me, I get it. If they were black and they were Native American, you know, Mexican, anybody from like the Southern Americas, they would have gotten shot. So there's also that separation of like, hey, not all cops are bad, but maybe all cops in DC are bad. You know, it's kind of like, I'm not saying that that's how it is. I'm just saying like, there's all this like crazy information where it's just separating everybody. You know, and I feel like I'm not saying that they should got shot, but I feel like if this was like in another country or something, and there was a group of people that were gonna invade the capital, they would have gotten shot, no matter what color they were. And you can't argue the point of like, well, this is democracy. You know, they shooting gotten shot. Well, if it was a democracy, why are you treating it like it's not a democracy? You see what I'm saying? There's all these aspects of like, you can't say anything because you're picking a side. And that's really difficult when it comes to like being like a prepper, you know, or like trying to be a prepper and all this stuff. It's kind of like there comes a point where like you're really not going to be picking a side anymore because you're preparing for something where like sides is what made something happen. And you know, maybe I'm just saying it all wrong. Maybe it's just like shit I'm seeing with my eyes. You know, I'm not with the right or the left. Like I said, if anything happened, you know, I'm down for like, hey, we need some precautions on gun rights because we really don't want, you know, people shooting up schools and shit like that. You know, but I'm also down with like, hey, I own guns. Don't fucking take them away. You know, and a lot of it is like, why do you need guns? Like, well, all this crazy stuff, like, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm a fucking prepper. I don't know. What are you prepping for? Like, just my audience. What are you prepping for? Put that in the comments. Like, what are you prepping for? You don't know? Put that. You know, I really don't know, but if something happened, you know, put something like, what are you prepping for? You know, my biggest, wildest, like, prepper, you know, thing would be zombies. That's what I'm prepping for. So if you're like, why do you need guns? Hey, you know, I hunt. We're not gonna lie about that. I hunt. You know, I live in the middle of nowhere where like I don't know who the fuck's gonna knock on my door, right? It could be my neighbor that's like a 2 minute walk from here, and he could be like, hey, I ran out of gas. You got some gas? Like, oh hell yeah, I got some gas. Here you go. Or it could be, I don't know, somebody fucking looking for something in the middle of nowhere. Like, I don't know. So yeah, I got a gun. I got a gun for that. I hunt, right? I said that. But also, it's kind of like, why not? I'm American. It's my right. If you don't want to buy a gun, don't buy a gun. But don't tell me I can't buy a gun. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, there's no real like way to like define this where like you're picking a side or not, and I don't want to pick a side. So my biggest thing I'm prepping for is zombies. Let's get that off the bat. I'm prepping for zombies, right? You get bit, you're gonna fucking die. You're gonna try to bite someone else. So I'm prepping for zombies. Of course, it's probably like one of the things that are like way, 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 way out there. You know, but it's like, I don't want to say it's like my fantasy of like zombies, but if it had to be a way, I kind of wish it was zombies, man. Like that would be it. So, you know, it's that separation in like in us is kind of like it's happening, man. It's crazy, and I think that should be like a really big reason to like prep, you know, because you know you may be cool with your neighbor for like years, but if something happened, you know, that whole separation of the nation and you know politics and all this mumbo jumbo bullshit, your good neighbor might eventually become your your enemy, you know. So 2020. 2020. And apparently there's been another set of stimulus checks, and I didn't get one. So I have some bullshit about taxes, and like you can report them in 2021's taxes and some crap like that. But it's crazy because a lot of people are like excited for that shit. Like, oh yeah, I got $600. I got my taxes, $600. That's fucking money right there. I didn't get it. And people were like, oh, damn, that sucks. And I was like, yeah, it sucks. I'm like, damn, what would you do if you would have got it? And I'm like, it's a fucking car bill right there. What do you think I'm going to do? You think I'm going to spend it on crap? So, second stimulus check apparently went through. People got it. I didn't get it. And in reality, it's kind of like $600. Ain't even a car bill. Literally. Like, if I got it, that's where it would have went. Car bill. My car bill. So, it's kind of like 2020. What did we get into? Now, 2021. What's going to happen? Biden's president? Well, I guess at this point I'm not even sure yet. But that's basically what the whole thing is. I guess there's like a week or 2 weeks left before that happens. So at this point, I really don't know. But that's kind of like how stuff's looking at. So let's just say Biden's president. Just, you know. And let's see what's going to happen. Let's see what 21 is going to happen. 2021. Let's see what's going on. Would he give us, like financial, economic aid? I don't know. So, I feel like for those people that didn't prep for 2021 and they struggled, did I say 2020? I mean 2020. People that were in 2020 struggled and they made it through, and maybe 2021's a little bit better. I feel like a lot of those people will start taking up prepping. And like I said, a lot of the stuff I see on YouTube and stuff like that, it's really overwhelming. So, and I'm pretty sure this first video of this is a little bit overwhelming with just me. Like, it's just so much stuff that happened in 2020. Then I try to summarize. Oh, and then they fucking said UFOs exist. So it's kind of like, oh, what? Star Wars, right? So everybody has like this whole weird thing going on there. But, some people were like, yeah. What is it? Guardians of the Galaxies, we're not going to be alone. They probably look like fucking Thor or some shit like that. And then there's people who are like, oh, fuck, they're going to attack us. Right? We don't know, if that's, if you believe we're the only ones in the whole fucking universe, pull your head out of your ass. But, I'm not going to be like, oh shit, they're fucking real. But I'm also not gonna be like, they're not real. So it's kind of like I have to think, yeah, they're real, but they haven't landed yet. And set aside the whole conspiracy that they've been here forever. Hey, if they have, fuck. But there's that. There's also that happened in 2020. So I hope 2021 brings a lot of new people who like, hey, trying to prep, trying to like, maybe we should store some food, maybe we should like, get some land, buy a cabin or build a cabin, like maybe people, and then Cali, everybody left Cali. Well, not everybody, but like the majority of people left Cali. They're just like, fuck this, and they left. So just imagine like people in 2021, like, what would that be where they're like, you know what, fuck the city. 2020 was fucked up in the city. I'd rather be outside the city, have some land. I commute fucking an hour a day in the city. Either way, why don't I commute an hour from my house to the city? Be the same thing, you know? So it's kind of like, what will 2021 bring us in, like, people prepping, people, like, seeing, like, what could be the next thing or something. And, you know, speaking of guns, I know we kind of went past that. Speaking of guns, if you see two rifles in the back, yes, they're real, and one is loaded. Just want to get that out the way. No, I'm not going to get it and open it to check, like, oh, there's not one in the chamber. There's one in the chamber. Just where I'm at, there is coyotes, javelina, wild dogs, wild feral pigs, mountain lions, and apparently, if something happens in the mountain, there's an occasional bear that kind of like treks all the way down here. So, and there could probably be a bunch of other shit that I really don't know of. So, just yesterday, I saw some javelina that were trying to get into my garden. And so I took that 22 and I just went outside and popped 2 rounds to give them a scare, and they took off. So, yes, that 22 is real. Yes, it's loaded, and I had proper training, so don't worry about that. That's just some ranch homestead shit that you gotta have in the back, and ready. So, anyways, so let's get back to the whole like prepping thing. Let me look at my notes. I kind of covered everything I want to talk about in this like first video of this thing. You know. So who am I? You know, just yeah. So let's go with what I got left. Why I'm doing this? Who am I? You know, what does it mean to be a prep for me? I got land, and so I prepare. So, who am I? You know, I'm someone that bought some land, right? So we'll pretty much try to get through as much as we can. So yeah, I bought some land. At first, I wasn't able to buy land because this whole like market and realtor and bank bullshit where it's just like, yeah, you need 20 down, and I'm like, what does that mean? That means I have to have like 30 or 40 grand saved up and put down to get some land. And that's kind of how it was. I didn't do that. So that's kind of how it was, and it was out of the question for me. I know that there's a lot of like different like, well, that's not necessarily true. You get land like this. Maybe if you do this, you can get land like this. I get it, but there's a good episode that Lee Strauss, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name, Survivor Man. It's a good episode that Survivor Man does. It's not on his survival. He has he does some things on YouTube sometimes. It's pretty old, but he does one where like he buys a house, he buys property, and he explains it where it's kind of like there's. I'm just trying to like remember as much as what he says, but he says it where there's a couple of things when looking at property and land and stuff like that, you gotta take in consideration, and there's always going to be something you got to give up, right? So you got to take in consideration distance, driving time, location, area, you know, all those stuffs come into play. And one of the cool things he said about that really hit hard was like, it doesn't matter how much you do this and how far away you are from everything, you still gotta have a means of income. Like there always got to be a means of income. And that is true. So anyways, my shit was I wanted land, I couldn't get it. So I started looking at houses and I was like, I don't want a house in the city. So I was like, yeah, I'm looking for a house, I just on and off and on and off. And I told my brother, I was like, hey, if you can find me like some stuff, and this is kind of what I was looking for, like has to be in the Sonoran Desert, north of the I-10, close enough, to the city where we pretty much grew up on, and I could basically work there and everything, and all these other things. And he ended up finding two properties. We went to the first one. I wanted to get it because it had more land, but apparently, like the whole thing with the bank was like that house you can't really get a loan for. So I was like, all right, whatever. So we went with this place. This is the house I got, and we went for it, and I got it. And looking back now, I would have hated that first fucking house. So I'm glad that happened. I'm glad I got this house. So I got this house and I got land. So basically, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be I'm trying to be, how would I say it, debt free. Where, I basically took out a car to basically fix my credit and to use that credit from the car to buy a house. And in the end, I like a year later from I got the car, I got the house. So that it kind of worked. And the joke was like, yeah, I got the car to get the house, but now I don't want the car anymore. So, I still got the car. So I want to be debt free from like everything, right? Car, house, food, utilities. So technically off grid. Yeah, yeah, I know a lot of it is kind of like, oh, well, like this and that, you know, um, solar panels, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. And, a lot of it, of being off grid, makes sense. Totally makes sense. But for me, it's kind of like, that thing you're thinking of is expensive. And it's not worth it. I get it. Let's just stick with solar panels. Solar panels, expensive. Also, great idea. So it's kind of like one of those things where like, I wish I had solar panels, but it's expensive. And if I got solar panels, I'd be more in debt. And what I want to do is I just want to be debt free. And so that's kind of the whole thing of like me trying to like ranch and do a homestead and doing this is trying to be debt free. Also, food's expensive. Like I'm really not much of like getting a lot of groceries. I'm very simple in like what I eat. But the other day I went and I was like, oh, I'm running low on like a lot of stuff. So I went to go buy stuff and I got home. I was like, fuck, I spent a lot of money. Like this shit is expensive. It's just crazy. We're like, $5 cookies, so good. I didn't buy $5 cookies, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like, sometimes you're there and you're like, damn, I should buy I should buy like this food. And like they cater to like a lot of fucking junk food. So it's kind of like you're walking by and you're like, damn, I think I should get that. I think I should get that. And then you're like, no. Let's see what they got. Let's skip that. Let's go. Maybe I might get some frozen vegetables. You go into the frozen vegetables, like you got the ice cream, like, oh, maybe I should get some ice cream. Like they fucking nail you hard when you go to the grocery store to get all that other crap. But like I said, food's expensive. People drop a lot of fucking money for food, and I'm just like, whoa, what? So yeah, so a lot of it, of me also having this and trying to make the homestead is just like, hey man, grow your own fucking food, because that's expensive. No, I'm not saying I'm not gonna enjoy and partake in like, you know what, fuck it, let's go get a pizza or something. I'm not saying that, but like a lot of it is like, a lot of it's like, hey, how much of the food you actually eat, throughout the year, and like how much of that can you actually grow? So I want to grow all of it, but I can't grow. I probably can't grow coffee here. I'm gonna try, but so like I said, food's expensive, so I'm trying to homestead and do that. So yeah, so what's being prepper for me is kind of like just have that mindset of like just have that mindset of if you're doing well in life, you got extra money, you're doing fine, kids at school, everything's great. Expect to not have a job tomorrow. Like, that's basically what I base off of prepping. And of course, like the whole fall of the world, end of the world stuff, zombies coming up to bite you in your ass, literally. And, so it's kind of like my stuff I base off of, like, of course, I'm going to get into like a whole bunch of like TV shows and like just talk smack about them. I'm like, that is the stupidest shit ever. But, like, yeah, we'll get into like funny TV shows of like post-apocalyptic stuff, like what, and my take is zombies. I like zombies. Been in love with zombies. Thank you, George A. Romero. You're my fucking hero. But you know, they just that just sticks to me. Zombies just stick to me. But also like you might not have a job tomorrow, and it actually happened to me a couple of times. And so like at times when you basically have a good job, you live well, you're doing great, maybe you should put a little bit aside. Um, you know, and I'm not saying that you should put like money aside, but you should put certain things aside. If money is like the thing, because everybody should put a little money aside, but if you're just putting just money away, maybe you should put in stuff away differently. Um, a lot of the times it was like when I had my job, a lot of times it was like, oh, 401k, 401k, retirement and all this shit. And I was like, I got it the first time. The second time, I was like, nah, I'm good. And the lady who was HR, she's fucking cool. She's still my friend. She was like, no, yeah, you should really get a 401k. Like get back on it. Think about it. And I was like, fuck that shit. I get it. 401k, I get it. I get all of it. I'm not saying no. I get it. But after the first time I got laid off, and it was like, I was like, oh shit, well, I got fucking like 8 grand in my 401k. I got laid off. Let me take it out. And then they're like, oh, you got laid off? Yeah, we'll get you out. There's a penalty though. You're only gonna get 3 grand. I was like, where the is the other 5 grand of money? Like, where is it? I know business people, if you're like watching this and stuff like that, I know you're gonna come up with like all this stuff. Oh, technically this, technically that, technically. I get it, but it's kind of like, at that point, it's like, damn, I should have done my 401k, my mattress. I would have had the 8 grand, but no, I didn't. So, second time came around, 401k. I was like, nah, I'm good. And they really wanted to push it on me, like, no, you should get your 401k. And I was like, nah. My 401k is tools. I need a new shovel. 401k, I buy a shovel, it's gonna last me years. You know, I'm low on ammo. 401k, I'm gonna buy some ammo. That's gonna last me a couple of years. With hunting and all that stuff. Or or 401k. Now I'm gonna buy some plumbing stuff and do my irrigation for growing my own food. Don't have to go to the grocery store anymore. unless I'm buying soy sauce. And no, I'm not saying like that. I'm just saying like, you know what I mean? Like, the fuck, I can't grow soybeans out here. So you know, like there's always stuff that you can use that you're gonna go back to the store. But I'm just saying like garden, growing my food, don't have to go to grocery store and stuff like that. But there's a lot of stuff I won't be able to grow. And salt, we'll just stick with soy sauce. Um, yeah, peppers. I mean like not peppers, like pepper, like pepper spice, and a whole bunch of spices that you probably won't be able to grow. Like there's all this stuff that you're able to buy that you can't grow, but there's all this stuff that you're able to grow that you probably shouldn't buy. So there's that. So 401k was kind of like, nah, done deal. I'm not doing that. So going back to the whole thing, like yeah. So if you're good and you got a little extra money, maybe you should start thinking a little bit outside the box of like, mm, you might want to invest in some other stuff. You know, canned food. Canned food's good, and I'm sorry if you're all crazy about like, oh, canned food should only last a couple of years. You know, this is you probably should throw it away after this and after that. If it's inflated and if it's dent, throw it away. Other than that, it's kind of like you're prepping also, like prepping if you lose your job tomorrow, but then also prepping if the end of the world happens, there's zombies roaming everywhere. You really think you're gonna pass by expired canned food? I've had canned food myself, like me myself. I've had canned food that's like 10 years old, and you know, it loses a little taste, but it really ain't that bad. Like if you're prepping, if you're a prepper and you're like, hey, we're prepping, like you're gonna eat that stuff. So just think about it. Canned food, maybe you want to invest in some other stuff, you know, you know, ammunition, bullets, a gun. I know a lot of people are like, I know a majority of people are like, oh no, why a gun? Why a gun? Shit hits the fan. Who's the fuck is your butcher? You gotta be your butcher. You gotta go out there and get a deer. And also, like in the future, we're gonna get into some hunting videos about shit. You know, uh, hunting ain't easy for people that have not hunted in their life and they're just like, or they hunted like, or they hunted like once, or they seen like a bunch of hunting shows and they're just like, ah, that's fucking easy. And like, ah, she's the fan. I got a gun. I'll go out there and shoot a deer. Fuck no. I'm telling you right now, hunting is not as easy as you think. If you've done it a couple of years and you can go out there, yeah, you can harvest your meat. Look, I've been hunting for 10 years and I still get my ass kicked. And I still sometimes go out there and don't get an elk, don't get a deer. You know, my biggest chance is getting jackrabbits. And I know people are like, oh, jackrabbits. Jackrabbits are my favorite meats in the world. Jackrabbits. A 22 rifle will feed me more if she hits the fan than a 308. A 308 will knock down an animal for sure. But you gotta realize, when she hits the fan, where are you gonna be? You're gonna be in the city and you're gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna hunt my food in the city. What are you gonna hunt in the city? The zoo animals? I would. And I'll make that alligator into a belt. But it's just like you got to think about like where you're at. If you're like, oh, elk meat's my favorite meat, and if shit's the fan, I'm gonna be eating elk meat all fucking time. But then you live in an area where there's no elk, maybe you gotta think about what you're doing there. Right? My area, like I said, lions, coyotes, javelina, deer. There's some bear up there in the mountain. If I hike a day, I could get up there. There's some bear, uh, cottontails, jackrabbits. There's always this migration happening because of the river. Like birds migrate all the way down here. There's a shitload of dove, quail. Saw a raccoon the other day. I wouldn't eat a skunk. I'm sorry. Yeah. But there's a skunk. Rattlesnakes. I definitely eat some rattlesnakes. They're all right. There's another reptile, but I'm not gonna say the word because that shit's highly illegal. And I think if shit hits the fan, I probably would still have a retrospect of like not eating that. But there's wild dogs. Shit, I'll fucking eat a wild dog. I maybe not. I don't know. But there's that. There's feral pigs out here, so it's kind of like, you know what I mean. You got to realize where you're at in like when you're gonna be like doing that stuff and hunting. And I'm telling you, a 22 will feed me and my group, which is my family, a lot more than a 308, and it's quiet. Like I said the other day, because I was talking about this 22 here. I just went outside, took 2 shots to spook some javelina off the property, so they don't get inside the garden. Cause they already did, and they ate everything. So trying to scare them away just a little bit, so they're not heading into like the area of the garden. They just like go the other way. But like if shit hits the fan and everybody comes to my house, my family comes to my house, not everybody, just like my family, my group comes to my house and they're like, yeah, dude, like we're sorry. And I'm like, no, don't be fucking sorry. We're bugging out together. We're gonna fucking make it through, right? That's the whole like that. So basically, my prepper phase is like, yeah, I lose my job, fucking zombies. So, anyways, if zombies happen or anything like that, or like whatever, aliens invade, or I don't know what kind of other like prepper stuff people like think about. Economic collapse and shit like that. If that happened, if any of that stuff happened, and we're bugging out or bugging out for them, bugging in for me, at my house, on my property, I could wait all night outside for javelina to pass, because there's game trails everywhere out here. Javelina to pass by my porch and take an animal off my porch. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you think hunting is easy and you never hunted in your life and you're betting on hunting your food for survival in a shit hits the fan scenario, you're fucked, man. But that's how it is. That's how it is. I was listening to that podcast about Guide to Manliness, and they had Steve Rinella talking about his survival book that just came out. I don't have it, but kind of wish I had it just because I like to read. And he's talking about like, oh, how all these survival books talk about like, they got the spindle and the stick to make a fire. And he proves a good point. Like, you know who turns on fires with that? People who turn on fires with that. So if you never done that in your life, it's going to be fucking hard. So just think about that. Like, if you go hunting and you never hunted, it's going to be fucking hard. So, like I said, and so we're going to go back to the investing in other stuff if you're doing well. So if you're doing well, like invest in other things, like just mentioned ammunition, canned food, stuff like that. Wine. If you drink wine or maybe whiskey, alcohol, that could be something. And I'm not talking about like, oh, you can barter with it. A lot of people say like barter with it. You know, in reality, I don't. If shit hits the fan, I don't even want to fucking see anybody. You know, I don't even know if bartering would be a good idea. You know, because the well, we'll get into like in another video, but there's all these things: land, of course, a waterfront. If you can fish, I can't fish for shit, so that's out of my question. If like shit hits the fan, we're gonna go fishing. Nope, I can't. No fishing whatsoever. I can't do that. So like invest in other things. If you're doing well and you can have put money aside, invest in other things. If it's simple as that. I know it's also hard because a lot of it's like what should I invest in? Maybe this. It's kind of like you're building up a structure to fail. No, you're building up a structure of like if something happens, I can lean on a lot of stuff. And that's basically it. Like, like I know it's hard to explain like you need to invest in other things, but like if you have the ability to invest in other things, you should. You know, if you have the ability to buy a quad and just go out and fucking ride quads and shit like that, you have the ability to prep. Or if you have the ability to buy a game system, I know it's entertainment, I'm not saying anything like that, but if you have the ability to buy an entertainment system and buy games and stuff like that, you have the ability to invest in stuff for a prepper scenario, given it's losing your job, or as for me, zombie apocalypse. So that's kind of the thing, why prepare? And that's basically what I lean on. Where like I love having a job. I love where I have to wake up at a certain time and like get ready, go to a place and just hate my life there, and then get out of there and then appreciate my life because I'm like, yeah, I have a shitty job, but then it's kind of like your job's not shitty, your life just sucks. It's not like that. It's like sometimes you love the place you work, but you hate the job. Maybe the people that work with you is like a little crew, and that makes the whole working environment better. But then, like I said, outside of that, I love my life. So, I love working. I love having that sense of like, waking up, getting ready, going to work, getting out, you know, doing things in the afternoon and then sleeping all over again. I like that. I've always liked that. But then again, it's kind of like I don't have a job right now. I really don't know how I got to that point of like, yeah, forget it. But yeah, so you know, we're gonna dive into this a lot more. And I don't want to be like discouraging people on prepping, or maybe if I'm giving like false information. Like it's not about that. Like it's about opening your mind on like different types of prepping. You know, is it could be like a go to list of like, oh, top things you need. But like I said, sometimes those things don't pertain to your area. And sometimes people buy things that people recommend that they should have, and it's kind of like, why do you even have that? So, you know, that's my thing. You know, why I prepare, or why I prepared before, or you know, why even though I'm unemployed, I'm preparing right now. It's kind of like So yes, so that's kind of how it is. It's just, you know, I'm not trying to be like. That's the whole thing of the channel is skeptical prepper. I'm not trying to like bug it into your brain where like this is what you need, this is what you need. You got to be skeptical about it all the fucking time. You know, if somebody's telling you, "Oh, you need this shovel, axe, something tool that you need to have on you," it's kind of like, are you gonna bug out all the time? Because in reality, I'd rather bug in. Like, I'd rather bug in here in my house, in my ranch, in my property, where kind of like I have an actual shovel, I have an actual axe, you know. So that's kind of how it is. That's kind of how. I mean, we dove into 2020 for sure. We dove into all the shit that I went through in pretty much in 2020 a little bit. So, you know, it's just the first video, just trying to get like kind of where my insights are. And, you know, that's basically it. My whole prepping of like why I prep, why am I a prepper, even though I don't consider myself a prepper, like what is it? Like what's in my brain of why I prep? Why am I guess, allowing myself to consider myself as a prepper is you might not have a job tomorrow, zombie apocalypse, which is basically it. Everything else falls in between, you know, but that's basically it. No job tomorrow, zombie apocalypse. It could be either or. It could be nice and dandy, you know, fucking get my coffee, you know, I'm gonna go bowling tonight with the guys, or whatever, and then it's just like, hey man, you got laid off. Fuck. Or yeah, get my coffee, going bowling with the guys tonight. Oh, what the there's zombies everywhere. That's kind of how like my prepper theme is, of how it is, of how I deal with like maybe I should prep for this. That's kind of how it is, and that's kind of how it will be. Um, but yeah, and I'm dressed like this because I was doing something and I got in here and I was like, you know what, let's start this channel. Let's do it up. And here I am. I'm starting this channel, you know, Skeptical Prepper. And I'll try to wear something. I think I'll come up with like a logo or something and wear that shirt like all the time when I'm doing this. But if you really think like, oh, you look kind of weird, like what's up with that shit? Dirty shirt and like dirty jacket. Shit hits the fan and you're prepping. Trust me, you're not gonna look spick and spam. It's not gonna happen. You're gonna be doing work. You're gonna be dirty. It's gonna fucking happen. And if you think like, oh, we're on the TV shows, they look okay. Yeah, that's fucking totally fake, man. They're not. One day working outside, I'm dirty. There is no way that shit's real. It's not. It's a TV show. Um, so yeah, so we'll see how it goes. You know, just stay tuned. We'll dive into like a lot of things here. Uh, I don't have a setup, as you can tell. All I got is my computer here with notes. You know, my bookshelf in the back, water. I'm filming this on my phone right now. But hopefully, I'll be able to like have this where I have lights, cameras, maybe a couple of guests every now and then, and we'll get at it. You know, Skeptical Prepper here. It's like the funniest name ever. Like it just sounds so real, but it's just like nah. But yeah, Skeptical Prepper, prepare to survive. But let's be honest, you'll probably die.